He landed at Fort Campbell on a Thursday afternoon in April 2022. 14 months in Kuwait. Before that, 8 months in Djibouti. Marcus Webb had been moving between assignments since 2019, the kind of deployment rotation that doesn't make headlines, but grinds through a person quietly, steadily, in ways that only show up later. He was 34 years old, Staff Sergeant, Combat Engineer, and for the first time in over a year, he was home, except home wasn't there anymore. His wife Elena had sent him a message 3 weeks before his return. She had been careful about how she wrote it, short sentences, soft language, but the meaning was not soft at all. The bank had foreclosed on their house, the one they had bought in Clarksville, Tennessee in 2019. The one with the blue shutters and the long driveway and the oak tree in the backyard that Marcus had made Elena promise not to cut down. The bank had processed the foreclosure in January 2022. By the time Marcus landed, the property had already been transferred. Someone else owned his house. He read the message twice on the tarmac, still in uniform, duffel bag at his feet. Then he called Elena. She picked up immediately. She had been waiting. How did this happen? He asked. She said she didn't fully understand it herself. The payments had been going out. She had the bank statements to prove it, but somewhere, somehow, the mortgage servicer had flagged the account, initiated a process, and completed it, all while Marcus Webb was on the other side of the world serving his country. What Marcus didn't know yet was that what had been done to him was not just wrong. It was illegal. Specifically, flagrantly, and on paper, illegal. Marcus and Elena had purchased the house on Ridgemont Drive in March 2019 for $248,000, a 30-year fixed mortgage through a regional lender called Centercrest Home Loans. Monthly payment of $1,340. They had set up automatic payments before Marcus left for his first extended deployment in September 2019. Elena managed the account. She was a dental hygienist, organized, careful with money. She had confirmation numbers for every payment, 12 of them, then 24, then more. In the spring of 2021, Centercrest sold their mortgage to a larger loan servicer, a company called Viridian Mortgage Solutions, based out of Atlanta. This was legal and common. Mortgages get transferred between servicers constantly. Homeowners are supposed to receive notification and a transition period. A letter should arrive, new payment instructions, a clear timeline. Elena received a letter. She updated the payment routing. She confirmed the first payment to Viridian cleared in May 2021. Then June, then July. What she didn't know, what nobody told her, was that Viridian's internal transfer system had failed to correctly import the account status from Centercrest. In their records, the account appeared to have missed 4 consecutive months of payments, beginning in January 2021. Payments that had actually been made to Centercrest during the transition period, payments that existed with confirmation numbers in Elena's records. But Viridian's system didn't show them, and nobody at Viridian called. Nobody sent a warning letter. Nobody verified the discrepancy. The system flagged the account as delinquent, initiated automated foreclosure proceedings in September 2021, and completed the process in January 2022. Marcus Webb was in Kuwait when his house was sold at a foreclosure auction for $201,000. He lost $47,000 in equity. He lost his home. And he lost it while deployed in service to the country whose laws were supposed to protect him from exactly this. There is a federal law called the Service Members Civil Relief Act, the SCRA. It has existed in various forms since 1940 and was substantially updated after the 11th of September. One of its core provisions is explicit and absolute. A mortgage servicer cannot foreclose on the home of an active duty service member without a court order. Not a default notice, not an automated process, a court order reviewed by a judge, with the service member given opportunity to respond. Viridian Mortgage Solutions had not obtained a court order. They had run an automated foreclosure process that their own system had triggered based on incorrect data. And at no point, not in September 2021, not in October, not in November, not in December, not in January, Had anyone at Veridian checked whether the account holder was on active military duty? Thus, SCRA requires them to check. It requires a specific verification step before any foreclosure action is initiated against a potentially protected borrower. There is a Department of Defense database, publicly accessible, free to use, that any servicer can query in under 60 seconds to determine if a borrower is on active duty. Veridian never queried it. Marcus found all of this out from an attorney named Paul Gentry, a veterans' rights lawyer based in Nashville, who had handled CR cases for 11 years. Marcus walked into his office 6 days after landing, still carrying the particular stillness of someone who has learned to keep their reactions internal. He laid out the timeline. He showed Paul the payment confirmations. He showed Paul his deployment orders, his return date, the entire 14-month record. Paul listened to all of it. Then he opened his laptop, pulled up the SCRA database, typed in Marcus's social security number, and turned the screen around. It showed Marcus Webb as active duty from September 2019 through April 2022. Continuously, unambiguously available to anyone who looked. Paul said, "They never checked." Marcus looked at the screen for a long time. Then he said, "What does that mean?" Paul said, "It means they broke federal law, and it means we're going to get your house back." Paul filed an emergency motion in federal district court in May 2022. The complaint cited violations of the Service Members Civil Relief Act, wrongful foreclosure, and unjust enrichment. He requested an immediate injunction to freeze any further transfer or modification of the property, sought restoration of title to Marcus and Elena Webb, and filed for damages including the lost equity, all legal fees, and additional compensation for unlawful foreclosure under SCRA penalty provisions. Veridian's legal team responded within 2 weeks. Their initial position was that the foreclosure had followed proper procedure under state law and that the SCRA verification obligation had been met through a third-party compliance vendor. They submitted documentation showing they had contracted with an outside firm to handle SCRA checks. Paul requested the records from that third-party vendor. What he received was a spreadsheet showing that the SCRA check from Marcus Webb's account had been marked completed in August 2021. But the check had returned a result of no active duty record found. Paul cross-referenced that against the DAD database with Marcus's information. The database showed continuous active duty status, the same status it had shown every day since 2019. The third-party vendor had run the check using an incorrect social security number, 1 digit transposed. They had checked the wrong person. Paul added fraudulent compliance reporting to the complaint. The case moved fast after that. Veridian's attorneys, who had been aggressive in the early filings, became notably quieter after the transposed social security number evidence entered the record. In September 2022, they requested mediation. The mediation took 2 days. On the second afternoon, Veridian agreed to the following: full restoration of title to Marcus and Elena Webb, reversal of all foreclosure records from their credit reports, reimbursement of all legal fees, payment of $85,000 in compensatory damages for displacement and financial harm, and a separate penalty payment under SCRA provisions that Paul confirmed was substantial. Though the exact figure was sealed, the family who had purchased the house at auction were compensated separately by Veridian and relocated. The property on Ridgemont Drive was returned to the Webbs by court order in November 2022. Marcus and Elena moved back in on a Saturday morning. Their daughter, who had been born in 2020 and had never actually lived in the house, walked through the front door for the first time. The oak tree in the backyard was still there. Veridian Mortgage Solutions paid a separate regulatory fine to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau in 2023 following an investigation into their SCRA compliance practices. The investigation found that Marcus Webb's case was not isolated. 14 other active duty service members had been subjected to improper foreclosure proceedings by Veridian between 2019 and 2022. 14 families, all while serving, all protected by a law that a mortgage company had decided through negligence or indifference did not apply to them. Marcus Webb came home from 14 months overseas to find his house gone. He came back with his deployment orders, his payment records, and a federal law that had been waiting, quietly, patiently, for someone to finally use it. The document he brought back wasn't dramatic. It wasn't hidden in a box or discovered by accident. It was his military ID and a DUI database entry that had never changed. It was just proof that he existed, that he had been serving, that the law said he was protected. Sometimes that is enough. Sometimes that is everything.